This is ELH4X4 doing stuff. Working on the 76 Corvette C3 Corvette. We got to do some maintenance to the speedometer. And we're going to find out why the clock stopped working. Yeah, so maintenance, I mean, we're going to lubricate because it kind of bounces, makes a little squeak noise. So we're going to lubricate the mechanism, pull the driver's side dash out. Tons of videos on how to remove that. You got to drop the steering column. There's two screws on this side, 3 up top, 2 on the center console. You know, drop this bottom trim out and duct work and whatnot. So remove the vacuum line going to the headlight. So we'll do that. I'll take the time now to explain that since I had the driver's side dash off, I'm having issues with accuracy with the tachometer. So I ordered a new p.c.b. printed circuit board. Also ordered a new ammeter, and I ordered a quartz movement for the clock. And we'll show how to install those. So I want to point out there is a screw. Let's get the light lined up. I'm kind of using the camera and you. Right here, this screw right here that holds the air conditioning vent, that's going to have to come loose, and then the dash is ready to come out. So we took out the 2 screws for the steering column, dropped it down a little bit, and yeah, we'll get you set back up and we'll continue removing the driver's side dash. So you can kind of see that it's already hanging out a little bit, but we'll get that one screw taken out, and we'll see you back in a little bit. So we moved our attention to the vacuum lines. So the one with the blue line goes up to the nipple that is closest to the driver. Can't really see it. Once we get the dash out, I'll show you. And then a solid black goes behind that. And then we disconnect the wiring harness off of the headlight switch. And we should be able to just kind of slide that forward. Okay, you kind of have to pull it out by the vent side too. We got that loosened up, so now all that we got to do is start disconnecting the light bulbs from the gauges. Slide that out some. Oh yeah, the speedometer cable. That's going to have to get pushed back in. You really don't have to mark the wires. They're already labeled. So I'm just going to pull them out, and I've done this before, so it's nothing really to worry about. Like I said, they're all labeled and they tell you exactly where they go. I did disconnect the battery. All right. So that's all I'm going to do is, there are some wires that are held in by spades, right? The connector, they just slide out. And then there's I think it's a 3-wire for the back of the tachometer that you got to disconnect also. All right, so this is what we're after. I'm just going to put a little bit of lube on that. Kind of pull it in and out. Rotate it a little bit. The odometer works fine. No issues with that. Just lube it up a little bit and that should be good enough. Should be good for another 50 years. Once again, we find ourselves, since we're here, all right, let's go through and fix some broken fixtures. We got that light bezel for the light switch that broke off. So we're going to epoxy those back together. And while we're waiting for epoxy to dry, we can move on to the gauges. You know, why did the ammeter or battery gauge that measures amps, not voltage, why did that stop working? And why did our clock stop working? And we got the replacement parts here. Original AC Delco ammeter for 75 and 76 Corvette. And then we're going from a clock movement, spring movement, to the quartz movement replacement. So we'll show you that, but let's work on our epoxy. And when I mean troubleshoot, we're going to see with the voltmeter how to check if there's something wrong with the wiring or if there's something wrong with the gauge itself. Because what we don't want to do is replace the gauge if there's nothing wrong with it, put a new one in and have something, you know, a short in the system, and I mean, I guess it would ruin the ammeter anyway. And same with the clock. You know, we got to figure out why it's not working. You don't need too much. We're just doing a small little part. Looks like somebody attempted to fix this part before. It looks like there's some super glue. I should have definitely worn my glasses. Maybe that'll do it. Maybe not. I was going to try to use the screw to line up the thread, but I think I just created more problems for myself. Do I have it in upside down? I don't know. Nope. Nope. You could put a piece of tape over that. You could, I'm not. Maybe use a little bit more. Try to keep the threaded part clear. Alright, and then what we can do now is this switch part is clocked, but it broke with the tab. You guys even seeing that? This little tab right here will line up with that. Was that a good idea? Laying it down? Maybe. Okay. All right. While we're waiting for this stuff to dry, we can move our attention to the gauges. There's all kinds of videos on the clock and stuff, but they kind of skim over, and there's a lot of unnecessary talking, like right now. So let's get right into it. So we got a replacement gauge. What my plan was to do was to take the face and needle off and use it on the new one so it matches all the other weathered looking gauges. But the problem is, one that's, I got to find hardware to, or the rivets or whatever to attach it back to the housing, but the needle doesn't fit. The post on the new gauge, I think, is larger than the old gauge, or vice versa, but the needle doesn't seat onto the post. So we're just going to save time, leave the gauge intact, and so now we got a new one. But with the clock, what we do is, they say to grab the second hand, and as you rotate it counterclockwise, twist it counterclockwise and pull to remove the second hand. your minute hand, just pull that, and your hour hand. What they don't tell you, they being the videos, you can't mess it up. The minute hand has a smaller hole in it than the hour hand, and it's stepped. So the hour hand has a larger collar, and then the minute hand has a smaller collar, and the second hand goes onto the post. And so we take that off and drop it. And then fall off camera. All right, let's compose ourselves. And with the clock, I'm not showing you the whole clock. So let's back up a little bit. There's a housing that the clock goes into. We'll take that off. Too big, of course. So we got our housing. There's indents and tabs. This is a grounding contact for the the original, right? You can see where this housing is all cracked up. So I don't know if something went bad with the solenoid, caused it to crack, but it's like a points style ignition that once the contacts come together, it activates the solenoid and kicks this mechanism down and causes the clock to be rewound. Can you see the movement? Right. So you can see this is all cracked up. And what we got to do now is once we take it out of the housing, like we already are, so we're going back in steps. All right, this is how it would be. We would bend the tab back, bend that tab back, and then move these indents out, and we could pull the clock out. Set the housing off to the side. Once we pull all the things off of the old clock, what we can do now is straighten out the ears on these tabs, or whatever you want to call them, and pull the face off. This is no longer used. And we got our new replacement quartz movement. All right, looks good. Made in America. Well, we really don't need to throw everything back together. What we can do is gently put the second hand, go over to our battery. We have our grounding post and our positive, right? Red wire going to the post with the insulator, and our ground wire that's going to short itself out to the housing. So we're touching positive. And can you even see that? Can you see the... Let's get you centered up better. We got our ground. Make sure we don't short out. Looks like it's working to me. It's only going to go on a certain way, so make sure that your adjustment rod goes through the hole. Line up your tabs onto the new housing. Gently bend. That doesn't have too many bends left in it. It's on there. We don't need to put this grounding strap on because we have the new one. So as you can see, I don't know if you can see in there, there's scratches, right? So this is going to scratch the housing, and I just bent it down a little bit to help it get seated better. You want to line up that insulator through the hole. See, it's this bent area that's giving me a hard time. I didn't really open it up too much because I kind of wanted to tilt it out to take it out. That way I didn't really have to mess with it when I was putting it back in. There we go. Almost. I kind of pulled down with the post. I got it seated on this side, so now I gotta push it around on the other. There we go. Move the post around. Make sure it's free and clear from the housing, because if it's touching, it will short out. We can get our pliers now and, well, before we do that, let's see if it, I guess we can get our hands put on. You don't want to send it down too far. So, you know, we want to keep it from rubbing on the face. All right. We don't want it rubbing on the collar below it. Okay, there we go. We'll just hook that up. Hook it up to the battery. And see if we got movement, and then we'll send the housing home. All right, we'll hook it up to the housing and short the pin, and we got movement.